Fallon's PET scan yourself?
Yes, I have.
And do you agree with Dr. Fallon that it does show abnormal?
Yes, I would agree that he has an abnormally low overfrontal cortical metabolism.
And like many others, in fact, Dr. Fallon really has not exhibited any of the types of behaviors.
Objection, Your Honor. That assumes facts, not an evidence.
Okay, I'll sustain as to the form of the question.
To your knowledge, has Dr. Fallon engaged in any criminal behavior?
I have no knowledge of what behavior criminal he may have engaged in. I mean,
Dr. Wu, isn't it true that a person who suffers from impulse control problems, once they act on those impulses in a, say, criminal fashion, they would normally show overwhelming remorse for what they did?
No, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that's true for some individuals, but not for all individuals.
Okay. Some people do, some people don't.
Yes.
And are you aware of Mr. Bradley's reaction to the shooting of Deputy Pill, at least as reflected in his interview?
Okay, bench conference.
Doctor, will you testify in criminal cases, do you not, sir?
Yes.
On how many occasions have you testified in criminal cases?
I'm not sure the exact number. I would say it's probably been over 30 or 40.
How often a year do you testify?
I think it varies. I would say maybe on average once every couple months.
And Doctor, is it true that every time that you have testified in a criminal case, you've been called by the defendant?
Yes.
No further questions?
Okay, redirect on behalf of the defense.
Doctor, you're aware that the state represented by the prosecutors represent the people of Florida.
Yes.
If you were called by the state, who would you PET scan?
If I was called by a state to do a PET scan, would I do a PET scan?
No, I'm saying, the state has pointed out that you have never been called by the state on all those 30 or 40 times by the prosecutors. Well, if the prosecutors call you to do a PET scan, who are you going to PET scan? Who's their client that you're going to PET scan?
I'm not sure.
Well, okay. I mean, can you conceive of who, since they don't represent anybody, but they represent the government, would there be anybody to PET scan? Would there be any reason for the government to call you?
I guess not. I mean,
Okay. Are you aware of the intimate aspects of Professor Fallon's life?
No.
How his deficit frontal lobe has affected his life in any regard?
I don't know the intimate details of his life. I know that he has written a book about this, and he has talked about how he thinks the reason why he hasn't acted out in a criminal manner is because he's had a very different environment, a very loving, supportive environment, and I think his main book was that even if you have a bad brain, if you grow up in a very loving environment, it can make a difference, and so I think that's the main emphasis of his book as I understand it.
So perhaps if one grew up in an environment where there was an abusive stepdad who beat the kids, including the particular person with the brain damage, then one might expect a different way of life for that person.
I think that would be one of the other messages from Jim Fallon's book, is that if you have a bad brain and you grow up in a bad environment, it's like you have two strikes against you instead of one strike. He had one strike, but the other strike went well. He said he had an extraordinarily supportive and loving family, and he thinks that that made a huge difference, and that's why he thinks he hasn't acted out, so the books that he's written, I think he would be the first to admit that if you have a bad brain and you grow up in an abusive environment, you're much more likely to act out.
So having good parents, that'd be part of that nurturing upbringing you're talking about?
I think he would say that would be absolutely critical, yes.
Vigilant parents that keep you from using drugs, keep you off the streets?
Yes.
When you're a 12-year-old boy?
Yes, I think all of us would be, would be part of what, I think would be consistent with what the gist of his book is that a bad brain is a strike against you, but a loving, nurturing environment can protect you from a bad brain.
For people who have mental health issues, is it unheard of in the annals of psychology and psychiatry that they may come to the attention of a psychiatrist without any reported history ever? Is that unusual?
Well, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah. If a person presents himself or herself as having mental health issues, is it always would you be surprised that that person has not reported such problems before?
It's not uncommon for an individual who reports for mental health problems to not have previously reported mental health problems. I mean, especially we do initial intakes all the time. People come in for various mental problems, and they had never previously seen a psychiatrist, seen a counselor before. So that's not at all uncommon.
You were asked about whether, let's see, about the Polk County Jail medical records of Mr. Bradley. Are you aware of anything in those records? Do you have any knowledge of Mr. Bradley having suffered any head injury from the time that he was taken into custody in this case?
I have not personally reviewed the records. I've seen Dr. Ollinger's review, and I think she comments on some reports of his hearing auditory hallucinations at various times.
She reviewed the records.
Right, but I don't think that I saw any note in her review of the prison records that there was any history of significant head trauma.
So if there's an absence of head injury in records, like from jail records, would that be an indication one way or the other of whether the person's had a head injury?
I think it would, more likely than not, an individual would not have had a head injury if they were in an environment such as a prison and they're in a closely supervised setting.
Okay, do you think it's always going to be brought to the attention of the authorities if somebody gets a head injury? And of course, depends on the severity. But
Yeah, I think it depends. Yeah, I would say, if it's severe, yeah, I believe in a setting like that, it would probably likely draw the attention of the authorities.
And you're asked if if you can or cannot state to a degree of medical certainty the cause of the brain damage that you saw. Does it matter what the cause is?
No, I don't think that it really matters what the cause is. I mean, it's there.
The account that you're aware of the automobile accident that Mr. Bradley was in, you are aware that although there were differing statements, I mean, is it clear to you that Mr. Bradley provided all the information in those varying accounts?
Yes.
It is clear that Mr. Bradley was the source of that information?
Oh, well, no, I'm not sure. Well, yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
Okay, there are medical records that were referenced in Dr. Lalender's report,
Yes.
as Mr. McMaster pointed out.
Yes.
There were some variations
Yes.
as to an automobile accident in 2008.
Yes.
You know for a fact that Mr. Bradley was the one who provided all of those accounts of what happened?
No, I don't know for a fact.
And are you aware also that, with respect to that automobile accident, he hit his head and possibly lost consciousness?
That I believe that was indicated somewhere. Yes.
Further questions?
Okay, recross on behalf of the state. Okay, sir, thank you for your testimony. You're free to step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, you may. Okay. Then we are going to recess for today. During this recess, you must continue to abide by your rules governing your service as a juror. Specifically, do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else, or allow anyone to discuss it in your presence. Do not avoid reading newspaper headlines and or articles about this case. Avoid seeing or hearing television, radio, or internet comments about this case. Do not conduct any independent research. Now, witnesses available, are they going to be here at 8:30 or 9? I didn't ask you that. If I say 8:30, are we good? Or did you tell them 9?
Well, I think I'm...
Okay. I don't want you to have to wait. So we'll do it at 9 a.m. We'll have you come back tomorrow morning, report to the jury assembly room at 9 a.m. So court will be in recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
All rise.
Okay, please be seated. Mr. Moore, would this be an appropriate time to talk about whether the defendant intends to testify in the penalty phase, or do you want me to wait?
He will not be testifying. I didn't look at the law for this, so the judge, you should just wait.
Okay?
It's not a good time.
Okay, that's why I asked that. I'll be happy to wait till tomorrow, but at some point I have to address that. The jury's gone, so I thought we'd utilize this time for something, but anything that we need to address on behalf of the state?
No, you're.
Anything we need to address on behalf of the defense?
No.
Okay, so we'll be in recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Okay, thank you.